We are live. Thank you for joining me. So, this is going to be my thoughts on the movie True Romance from 1993. This was supposed to be part of the other video, but for some reason, stopped recording. So, here we are. I'm spoiling absolutely everything, and the movie's R rated, so will this video be? I fucking love the movie. Let's dive right in. So, yeah, they do a really great job with just like immediately we get a sense of who Clarence is, and that like usually women don't agree to a date because he wants to watch the movies he wants to watch, not really thinking about what a lot of women might like. And let's see, immediately we learn about his love of Elvis, which I do also appreciate. That's like the one thing that they both fuck Elvis, and the movie does somewhat comment on homophobia because like he's you know essentially, yeah, he's admitting, yeah, I don't know, I would fuck Elvis. If I had to fuck a guy, I would fuck Elvis. And sometimes when you meet people who are super into Elvis, yeah, like it does, for some it goes to, I don't know if quite that place, but yeah, oh right, and fucking obviously there's absolutely nothing wrong with being gay. Um but yeah, that's also, like if you're a guy, you like Elvis, you're fine with violence, pretty decent chance the movie's going to be your kind of thing. Shit, let's see, what was the other thing? So the yeah, we have the, yeah, and also just the fact that he says, hey, I'd like to take you out to watch, you want to take me to watch a kung fu movie, 3 kung fu movies. Which I will say, I'll admit, I am not the I'm not super familiar with, let's see, I think you could say Sunny Chiba, but I have heard amazing things. There was a while where I watched basically every martial arts movie I could get my hands on. Um, Honestly, I think a lot of it was more like um, people from West, like Europe and such. Um, yeah, like Jean Claude Van Damme. Watched basically every single movie that he was in that I could get to watch. Um, but if we're talking like East Asians, Bruce Lee was a fucking legend. But yeah, we see that yeah, she says no to kung fu movies, so he goes to watch them on his own. That's how that kind of thing goes. He'll ask a girl, you want to watch these very specific movies, and she'll turn them down. And then he just goes and watches on his own. And we also find out, this was actually his birthday. So it's one of those things. Like, yeah, we want it to be a good experience. We immediately get the sense that he is a good guy. And little details like the fact that he's worked here for 4 years, and later on we find out he used to, was it like live near an airport, something like that. So like, yeah, basically his whole life he's watched other people um, have these things that are out of reach for him, and he like says, oh, my manager's a nice guy. He I can borrow money from him from time to time. These are like things that, like, yeah, he's trying to put a positive spin on it, but obviously, you don't really want to be in a place in your life where you're stuck in a dead end job and you have to borrow money from your boss. And yeah, in real life, Tarantino worked for a while in a uh, movie rental place. Not a comic book store, but yeah, very similar. And clever, this thing about bringing up Nick Fury, dives in after the ring, and yeah, you know fighting Nazis. Not the last time that a Tarantino movie would have Nazis as the villain that they are in real life as well. Whether we're talking Nazi Germany or America today, and other places as well. But yeah, um, I think that might right. And yeah, when she sits down near him and accidentally drops a bunch of popcorn on him, and then she's like offering him something she bought, and she says goober, which is a cute little joke because like she's being kind of a goober. Um, and yeah, the she admits that you know she's a call girl, and it was his boss that set this whole thing up, even making sure because like he called and found out which movie um, Clarence was watching, or which movies, and that's also God, it's so fucking adorable when they leave and they're like reenacting some of the fighting, just so fucking cool. And I also like the thing about so he's the good guy. He's the guy who fucks people up. Um, that yeah, kind of sums up a bunch of Tarantino, doesn't it? Bunch of his movies. Uh, I'm joking. Obviously, there's more to them than that. But yeah, after sex, she climbs out the window and sits, outside, and then he comes to join her, and they talk, and she tells him the whole truth about being a call girl, and mentions Drexel, and I appreciate that at the time this was seen as just basically mainstream. Like it's this thing of respectability politics was sadly the norm at the time. But yeah, it is this thing of like to have her say, I'm not damaged goods. I haven't had sex with that many. Like she might not be a virgin before she met him, but she's also not had sex with that many. As if there's this thing of like oh, if a woman has sex with so and so many people, like that's horrible. But guys should definitely have a lot of sex with a lot of different people, and they should all be women. So you're saying men should be ruining women, like by your own logic, like fuck, misogynists are so bigotry, brain rot. It doesn't make sense. It folds apart within seconds of examining the way they think about things. But I appreciate that when this movie was made, this was sadly something that yeah, like feminists were also saying women should not women should be monogamous and not be too sexually like yeah. um let's see. But yeah, it is one of those things like you do, like as soon as we see that she's upset, like we want him to be able to comfort her, and it's such a happy moment when she is comforted by you know and yeah, we get the noxious transphobia of him saying he was worried that she was trans. He doesn't use that term exactly, and just yeah. If I were to rewrite this, she would be more upset that he was being transphobic than that he was taking it so well. Let's see. Yeah, I quite like the fact that it is the Elvis of Clarence's mind that says, to grab the gun and take out Drexel. It's this thing of like essentially he verbalizes what Clarence deep down is feeling. Um, yeah, and right now I don't remember if he does in the first scene, but certainly in the second, yeah, he like puts the gun within Clarence's reach, and I do fucking love the thing. I like Clarence, always have, always will. And the first time he communes with Elvis. See, it's one of those things. In a way, I would say there's some people that I wish would be super into Elvis instead of Jesus. Like conservative Christians are so fucking harmful in America and have been for decades. But at the same time, it's not like Elvis is like entirely fucking unproblematic or anything. Yeah, I think that brings us to. Let's see. We have the. Yeah. So yeah. He grabs the gun and goes out and she's sitting there watching like kung fu and doing kung fu moves and yeah he goes to Drexel's and he says, yeah, I'm just gonna go get your stuff. Um, and yeah, he gets there. He's hitting the gun and manages to get in. Oh shit! Right. Briefly. Yeah. So when she mentions Drexel, such a great way to show don't tell. We learn a lot about Drexel. He. It's too bad that there's so little of Sam Jackson in this movie, but you know, Pulp Fiction has a great amount of him, and he's really solid in this very brief. Yeah, but yeah, um, you again have like yeah, there's this ridiculous weirdness about oh, I wouldn't eat pussy, and if I did, I wouldn't tell anyone. I'd be ashamed, and just yeah, I don't know. I do appreciate that some of the characters in the scene at least are like, who cares? Like, yeah, eat pussy. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big believer in if you as a man expect a woman to perform oral on you, you should be willing to perform oral on her. And let's see, and don't complain about it, don't whine about it, offer it enthusiastically, or don't expect her to perform oral. But yeah, it also gets into some homophobia, which I don't know. I want to say it might just be like the environment rather than the movie saying that it's okay to be homophobic. Now, let's see. Other than that, we have the shit. What was the other thing? Yeah. So there's not that many black people in the movie. I do definitely think that the way they are depicted, like there is this sense, sadly, there are a lot of white people who think that black men are just like always like hyper masculine and aggressive and violent and shit. And it's so fucked. There are some African American men who perform masculinity in a way that it starts with the fact that back when, you know, when America had a lot of slavery, basically, if you were black, you were treated as less than, and yeah, one of the things was, of course, basically treating the men like they weren't real men, and the women like they weren't real women, and yeah, some African American men today perform masculinity in a in a confident way. It is genuinely absurd to claim that they are more violent. It's one of those things like, what's the term? Every accusation is a confession. White slave owners were the ones who were violent. African Americans are nowhere near as violent, and they're not inherently more violent than white people. And if you look at, like, if in America, when there is a terrorist attack, yeah, it's like more frequently white conservative domestic terrorists, native borns, not immigrants, not black people, not leftists. Now, yeah, I don't know. There's a certain irony to, Drexel is a white guy who thinks he's black or acts like he's black. Well, okay, let's see. Shit. Technically, I guess, I don't know. Is he white? Because one of his parents. I fucking. Can we just stop with, like, race? I'm not saying that if you're not white, you shouldn't bring it up. That's not for me to say. And I can't stand when white people say, oh, why can't they just get over it? Well, there's a long list of reasons why, African Americans are still being hurt by white people, and non-whites in general are hurt by white Americans. Um, but yeah, uh, he's not black. Drexel Spivey is not black, but acts like he is. And it's one of those things because, like, I mean, is Tarantino just like sort of admitting, because like the way he depicts black people in his movies, and how much he writes the N word into his scripts. Um, I in interview, as far as I've seen, Tarantino doesn't come across as Drexel Spivey, but it's not like there's nothing similar to that in him. So yeah, I think, does that bring us to the, let's see. Um, yeah, so the fact that, Drexel, like, we, again, like, it's a scene that, we've seen a million fucking drug deals in American media. It's like, okay, we get it, war on drugs. Drugs are bad unless it's the U.S. government making money. But like, just he makes it fucking work. And the thing about, like, oh, hey, we're just fucking around. Hey, hand me the gun. And then he shoots two of them, and we realize, oh, the third one was in on it. And just, yeah, now he gets to keep the yeah, the money he was supposed to pay to get these drugs, and he also gets to keep the drugs themselves. So yeah, that's who Drexel Spivey is. So we're not exactly like, listen, in real life, I am a big believer in violence being the absolute last resort. In fiction, I can appreciate the cathartic thrill. And my God, when he takes out Drexel, and also seeing, like, the mobsters get gunned down, there is, like, yeah, a catharsis. Like, I don't want this to be done in real life. I am aware that it would not actually solve, like, listen, people with the ability have been, harming and killing, people who do evil things I mean, I guess as long as we've had society at all, we still have people doing evil things. Like studies show, it makes more sense to do like, yeah, long list of, but just like progressive policies are how you prevent people from ending up becoming criminals. Conservative policies, well, you can just look at how the crime is actually much higher in red states than in blue ones. Trump just wants more power, so he's putting in, military to cities that are experiencing 30-year lows in violent crime. Now, let's see, whilst not admitting that, January 6th was violent and criminal, now, I think that does bring us to, so yeah, when Clarence walks in, like we can tell, he thinks he's got this under control. He's like, okay, this envelope has all the money that I'm willing to give you. And Drexel carefully opens it, looks inside, and goes, this envelope is empty. Empty, the opposite of full. This envelope was supposed to be full. And yeah, he's like, Charles Bronson, you haven't even looked at the tits on the screen. And, you're not sitting down and you're not eating. And, he does he thinks he's fucking Gestapo or something, like getting the lamp shining in his eyes. And Claire just says, I'm not sitting down because I'm not staying. I'm not looking at the screen because I already watched that movie, The Mac. Watched it years ago. I'm not scared of you. I just don't like you. Just really, really cool. And yeah, he thinks he's going to be able to, and Drexel gets the upper hand on him, and gets his driver's license, I think it is. Something. Holy shit! He spends the entire movie driving around like fucking bullet without a goddamn driver's license. That was I do appreciate now returning to Bullet, already in progress, and yeah, I am doing a review of Bullet at some point. It's fucking amazing. And they later do also bring up, they do say Steve McQueen straight, which Steve McQueen appears in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it's played by another actor. Thankfully, he doesn't. That's one thing I would definitely say. I'm not vouching for everything Tarantino, but I fucking appreciate he doesn't do any of that de-aging bullshit. Just cast an actor who looks like what they looked like back then. Yeah. And they did really, like, I actually know that actor from other stuff, and the moment I saw him, I was like, oh fuck, he's perfect. He looks so much fucking like Steve McQueen. It's unreal. Also pretty fond of the movies directed by the other Steve McQueen. Anyway, I think that brings us to, right. So yeah, ultimately, he gets out the gun and he shoots him right in the fucking crotch. Like, god damn. That's, yeah. Because like that says something, that's not the same as just like he could have shot him pretty much anywhere. There's a lot of places in the human body that would have the other person like incapacitated by the shock and awe. But yeah, shooting a guy who treats sex workers badly in the dick. And I appreciate, the they make sure we see, yeah, he was shot in the dick. And there's like blood. They put a squib there, and just fucking, yeah. And he manages to kill Drexel and the one bodyguard, the guy who also let him in. And it's one of those things. I appreciate that Clarence is emotional and wants to resolve the situation as quickly as possible. There's, shots fired. He's worried that someone's going to fucking hear and come running or something. He doesn't need to point his fucking gun at the sex workers and threaten to shoot them, you know. But I do think that the movie is saying, you know, this is not the best way to handle it. Like throughout, you know, he is in over his head for most of the movie, you know. Um, and yeah, you know, the women, you know, the one sex worker who, like, you know, yeah, hands him the bag. Like, yeah, she assumes that he's there to swipe the drugs. You know, she has no idea that he's this like guardian angel who freed a sex worker and is gonna, you know, marry her and all this. And that's the thing. You know, there's not enough movies that acknowledge, you know, you doing violence isn't gonna, like, bystanders are not necessarily gonna realize why you're doing it or think of you as the good person in this scenario, you know. Um, and he doesn't fucking check either, and he forgets to get the fucking license, yeah, driver's license. You know, and Christopher Walken just, he left the license in Drexel's hands, you know. And you know, he opens, or they open the bag when he gets home, and you know, she's like, "Honey, those are not my clothes." But yeah, right. And the marriage itself was also, you know, yeah, they just go to the courthouse and get married, and welcome, you know, Mr. Worley and Mrs. Worley, you know, hi wife, hi husband, you know, it's just cloud nine. Wonderful to see them so happy about this, like, just, yeah. Um, and I think that brings us to the, yeah, it's also, you know, when he tells her that, you know, he killed Drexel, and she cries, and then he's like, well, would you rather that I was dead? And it's like, the fucking, like, that's not even remotely what is being communicated here. But again, you know, I don't think the movie's saying that he's right to be saying that. I think it's expressing he's insecure, you know. Ah, shit. I think that brings us to the, yeah. So the right. I thought the narration works really well. That's also not. There's a lot of Tarantino movies that don't have narration. But yeah, and the way that, you know, there at the start, she's like, I can't believe we actually worked, but you know, true romance, you know, title, roll credits, and then there at the end, you know, picking back up. Yeah, it's just perfect. It really adds a lot to the movie. Wouldn't be the same without it. Let's see. Then we have the let's see. After that, they yeah. So they go to his father, and let's see, the yeah, you know, one can understand why it's overwhelming. You know, oh, you know, I'm married now, and you know, showing up after 3 years, and you know, yeah, like all this. And that was also, you know, the thing about, you know, she, there's no beer because, you know, he may no longer have a problem. He's not an alcoholic anymore, but he doesn't like to drink. So there's no beer, so she goes out to buy beer, and he explains. And I really love that we just cut from him saying, you know, okay, I'm going to explain everything, to, you know, Hopper acting out the reaction, you know, because we don't need to see all this stuff. Like, we know what he said, you know. Um, and yeah, you know, he points out, "Yeah, I don't hear for 3 goddamn years, and you show up at 8 a.m. like this. You know, you gotta calm down." Let's see, and yeah, you know, the thing about, so there's the you know, there's perhaps a little bit much exposition for how little screen time Hopper has. There's, you know, I didn't judge you when you were alcoholic. Everybody else did, but I didn't, and you know, you have to help me. You know, just a tiny bit too much. Now, let's see. I think that might. And I do also appreciate that. That does help underline. I mean, he does. He's not perfect, but he has a good heart. He hates people who treat women badly. He doesn't judge an alcoholic. Um, these various, yeah. Because like as soon as you see him commit acts of violence, if we're going to see ourselves in him, you have to do a lot of the legwork. And I think the movie does as good a job as could be expected, considering how much violence there is in the movie, and essentially, like, yeah, some of the violence would have happened regardless, but it wouldn't necessarily have happened to people that Clarence cares about if he hadn't been such a monumental fuck up in this whole thing, which is, obviously part of the charm, but yeah, let's see. I think the next thing is Walken and Hopper sharing a scene, and it is like um, Jimmy Carr has. I forget if he said it was his favorite movie, but he certainly said it was an amazing movie, and I believe this was quite recent. So 30 plus years after the movie came out, he's saying that's an amazing movie. He's not saying it about a more recent movie or like going super old and going to like a classic kind of but I mean, I would say it's a classic, but it's not like one of the it's not The Godfather, for example. If I watched The Godfather with you, I swear I would not talk through the entire movie. I would not talk at you through the entire movie. But yeah, the let's see. Yes. So we have the yeah. But Jimmy Carr, said he loved this movie, and specifically the scene of Walken and Dennis Hopper, sharing a scene. And I do agree that there's like the way the tension builds is really really effective. As soon as the N word is dropped, it is this thing of like, I hope, I'm not sure, but I hope we are not meant to be like, yeah, you call this guy, you say that he's like N word, I think we are supposed to not think. And it is also one of those things like, I mean, hypothetically, if somebody said it to me, I would be like, okay, so what? They're not lesser. The reason that it works, because clearly, I forget his character's name, but Walken's character is clearly upset by it. The reason it works is because he himself is racist. And it's possible that the Hopper character is also racist. I think there's a very strong chance for him the fact that he uses that as a tactic, is willing to do that. I think he is racist, but I don't think we're supposed to. I hope we're not supposed to agree with the racism. Um, let's see. I think that might bring us to. But yeah, the thing about God. Walken, you just give him the right words and you unleash him. It's so fucking good. Whether or not you believe me is not important. The important thing is that you make me believe you. And yeah, when he doesn't quite cooperate, slice his fucking palm open and then pour liquor on it. God, that's gotta hurt like a motherfucker. And like the close up first of the hand, and then of Hopper's face. He's like, God, that fucking and yeah, at the end, he kills him. It's one of those things where like it's almost too bad that it's. I think it is his only scene, isn't it? We see the Italians in more scenes, but I don't think Walken is ever with them. And we also, like they say, he represents Blue Lou. We never meet Blue Lou, And it's one of those things, like, it would almost be too much if they like killed the head of the mob, when like, no, it's just this guy wanted to kill, Drexel, and then sell to, and then retire, basically, or I don't know if retire, but at least go somewhere that they wanted to be, and just, I don't know, they might have like a regular job just to make sure they don't run out of money, because like 200,000 is still not like, they're young, they can live for decades. It's not necessarily going to last as long as, but if they're okay with like a decent job, but now that they have each other and are in a completely different location than before, I think they would be happy just having, that. You're not going to hear me say that very often about like fucking minimum wage jobs, but which I think is likely all they're going to be able to get. You know, being immigrants to Mexico, and not, I don't think they have like a huge education. It's not like the stuff that they used to do. I mean, neither of them are going to want her to go back to sex work. Yeah. Now, I think, yeah, and yeah, Gandolfini, like, even in that scene, like, he doesn't have very much. Like, it's just his face as he walks up and cuts, but it fucking works. Like, it's so effective, so chilling. Like, you remember him. Like, there was a time when I first watched this, I didn't know who the fuck Gandolfini was. I do now. I still remember the character. Same thing for Floyd. The first time I watched this, I had no clue who Brad Pitt was. Now, I think that might bring us. Let's see. So they have the right. Yeah. So they let's see. They tell the dad where they're gonna be, which ends up being, oh, right. Yeah. Before they leave, they tell the dad where they're gonna be, and that ends up being how they're able to find was it Dick Ritchie and exact address, and the call, and it's so wonderful. God, Tarantino's fucking dialogue, and it's this thing of like, it's a literal game of telephone. Like, did you get the letter? Did you get the letter? What letter? What letter? The letter. The letter. Jesus fucking Christ. It's such a ridiculous, like, motherfucker, Clarence. Take the phone. You're right fucking there. Why do you need her to be like in the middle of this shit? Like, and she's like giggling. I think she realizes how ridiculous of a situation this kind of is. Anyway, I think that might bring us, let's see. There's definitely something, shit, where were we? Yeah. So they, yeah, and they end up having sex in the phone booth, right there. Very much like honeymoon. Still very much in love kind of energy there. And yeah, basically, like, they fucked to celebrate because they did some packing. And yeah, she changes clothes there, and then they start fucking because they're just so in love. Um, right. I also think the way that the sex scenes are shot, like, this was a time where there's a lot of male gazy shit, and like a sex scene would basically be like, oh, well, fellas, time to jerk off, and yeah, here it doesn't really feel like that. Like, for sure, the camera, wants you to notice their bodies, but it feels like this is just, no, like, that, it's communicating that they're having really great sex with each other, which is important for, like, this is a relationship. Like, it's not purely based on sex, but the sex is a big part of it. Right. The rest of the date, I do want to briefly go over. So the thing about, where are you from? What do you do? I don't know. And the thing about it, so what do you want to know? And then he just rattles off all the questions, and then it's just like, Okay, give me the questions one at a time. Just yeah, I love Tarantino's dialogue. And yeah, at first she doesn't say that she's a call girl or where she's from, but she does actually love some of these pop culture things that he also does. I love how much of this movie, like people are constantly watching movies, and at one point Clarence's big dream is to see what TV is like in other countries. Like he doesn't mention, he doesn't say, I want to see like I don't know, the Arc de Triomphe, for example. He says, I want to see what TV looks like in other countries. Because that so much of his world is TV, is movies. And yeah, like um, TV's usually on in Richie's place. Um, she's watching TV both before and after he kills Drexel. TV on at Drexel's. Dailies are being projected during Lee, the scene with Lee. So yeah, um, yeah. So that brings us into the next. Let's see. Yeah. So they right. Also, the audition, I fucking love that it actually worked. Like, because at first we're like, oh my god, he is not get. They're don't call us. We won't call you either. I'm not cleaning him up. And he actually did get the part. Like she saw all she needed to see. She liked his incredibly corny, overacting performance. Like it is fucking wonderful. Like yeah. Um, anyway, that brings us to the yeah. So the they show up to the place and thing, and first she's there, and then he jumps in front of her and he's like, oh, it's me, and he's like, ah, I knew it was you. It's just yeah, it's adorable, and yeah, like they feel like friends. I love that Floyd barely ever gets off the couch. I actually forgot he does at one point get off the couch, at least briefly, but almost all the time he's just sitting there, and he's smoking the second page of the letter. He's not checking the mail. He doesn't have a job. He's not contributing with anything. He's just sitting there getting stoned. Just yeah. But yeah, we have the let's see. Yeah, they talk about so there's the thing about, listen, you're a big shot in Hollywood, right? You can find someone that I can offload this to. And he's like, no. I guess I know one guy, and yeah, uh, where should we meet? And she sees a roller coaster on TV. Just she's got this wonderful just joie de vivre. She's just happy, like she is excited to be awake. She just wants to go and have fun. Oh, we're gonna make 200 grand. Let's go on a roller coaster. And the detail that Elliot, he's not good with roller coasters, and the camera just fucking captures, like you feel like you're there on the roller coaster, and just yeah, Elliot almost leaves the meeting, and then they clamp down the security thing, and then they go on the roller coaster, and he's talking about it, and after his Clarence is like, what the fuck, are you in or are you out? And Rich is like, I think he's sick, dude. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. And he let's see. That yeah. So he says, I don't even know who. Okay, I guess I got this one guy who might buy this, and he points out, it's too good to be true, isn't it? Which when they talk to Lee, he also points out it's too good to be true. Make me believe you, because Clarence thinks he's being smart. He thinks like, oh, if I offer a bargain, they're gonna jump at the chance. But like, that's such a fucking suspicious thing to do, Like, listen, I'm not in the drug dealing business, but I can imagine they're probably like, there's something fishy here. But yeah, and the thing with he calls him and Lee's like, it's Sunday. Why are we talking on a fucking Sunday, just and the thing about, well, I wanted to have you distribute Dr. Zhivago, you know, wink. Am I winking with the right eye? And like it could be really big for you. And I think yeah, I don't know how much distributing I do anymore. I mostly just produce. And I certainly don't fucking think we should talk about Dr. Giavago on the phone, motherfucker. And he's like, well, listen, I'm talking to the guy, and he's like, and the thing about, yeah, he knows, Dick Ritchie. Who the fuck's Dick Ritchie? And he thinks, I'm supposed to suck his cock. What? Just it's homophobia again, and yeah, listen, he's insisting. He really wants to talk to you. And Clarence fucking grabs the phone. Finally, he learned that move. Could have been useful earlier when there's, Alabama's having to repeat everything either of them say. But yeah, he explains, his terms really, really nicely done. And again, like we're seeing how like he's got his what's that term? His grasp exceeds his reach or something like that. Just for Clarence. And yeah, Elliot's like on top of the world, like, oh, wonderful, this is gonna work out so well. And a woman is performing oral while they're in the car, and then he's fucking speeding, this fucking idiot, and he's carrying the bag because he's supposed to be bringing a sample to Lee, and just like fucking. And I kind of love that it's his own fucking fault that it goes so badly, for multiple reasons. One thing is the fact that he's speeding. Like he's blaming her, dude. You're an adult. You should be able to resist. Like you can just say, listen, how about we don't go speeding while I have this like bag of flour, if anyone asks, and yeah, he's like telling her, hey, you carry, you put it in your purse. I'm not putting it in my purse. Bra, not wearing one. Pants, no. And he's like yelling at her and talking about how much he's done for her. Like he's like going full fucking incel, or I guess um, alpha male, kind of just this bullshit of like, he thinks that there's this sense of entitlement basically. And the thing is, like, for one thing, if he hadn't been speeding, that's one thing. Another is, let's see, I believe if he was quick enough and like threw the bag out of the car, I think that might be because, like, if it's in the car, then that's on his property or person. But if it's not, and just like, yeah. But ultimately, because he's such an asshole to her, she pushes it away and ends up, like, and it goes all over his face, and she can't help but laugh. The cop comes up as like face full, just wonderful. Yeah. 10 out of 10. Chef's kiss. 2 thumbs up. Yeah. I think, yeah, and yeah, the scene of like, they're putting pressure on him. It's bad cop, rad cop. It's like, oh, you're going down. We again get the homophobia. And this was also, let's see. I am going to go ahead and plug Pop Culture Detective, an excellent video. I guess multiple videos talking about like sexual assault played for laughs, where he talks about this trope of treating it as a given that if a man goes to prison, he's going to be, raped. And yeah, I don't have anything to add. I just watched his video on that. But yeah, just the performances, the filming and editing, and the fucking dialogue just makes this scene work so fucking well. And it's also this thing of like, we know from the start of the scene, like, there's no fucking way Elliot's gonna stand up to this pressure, so just, yeah, He agrees to everything, and then they talk to the chief, which again is seen like, Chief, you gotta let we are so close to cracking this case. Please don't take it. I know I've been kind of a loose cannon. Please don't take my badge or bust my ass down to sergeant. Just like, and it just fucking works. And the thing with like correcting the grammar, and the other guy's like, what the fuck does it matter? Just yeah, so fucking good. Yeah, I think that brings us to yeah, Gandolfini, walks up, Floyd's there on the couch, and he's like, so where did they go? And he does get the name out, though at first he kind of fucks it up, and then afterwards he's like sitting there, shower argument shit, don't fucking patronize me, like you didn't say that to the actual guy. But yeah, and he yeah, he goes to the hotel room where Clarence told her he's gonna be back soon. He's just gotta go, and it's just yeah. The fuck. It's so yeah. The bullet driving is fucking awesome. And yeah, he goes and he goes up to this guy. It's like, oh, that's a great issue of that magazine. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's actually I'm not on that page yet. I'm reading this article about how some motherfuckers just don't realize when you don't want them to approach you in public. Wow. Huh. That is such an interesting, just like, and he actually ends up kind of winning the guy over, talking about like, oh, it's the best Elvis article ever, and this whole thing, just like, I love his philosophizing about Elvis, just so fucking good. But yeah, the intercutting between Clarence like celebrating, I was like, oh, what's the best fucking burger? I want the best one, two of those, and the yeah, he's like having the best time. Meanwhile, she's being beaten. And it's one of those things I want to acknowledge. Obviously, it is not only when depicting female characters that Tarantino has these drawn out scenes of violence. Some of them are against men, but it is silly to, I dislike when people act like, oh, it's basically the same thing. No, violence against women is a huge problem and has been forever, and acting like we're that it's the same to show violence against a woman as violence against a man. We're never going to actually solve these problems if we don't take them seriously. And it is very drawn out, very explicit. Make sure that we see every single nuance of him hitting her, and oh, she's gasping for breath because he hit her so hard. The part where he hit her hurts really badly, is bruised and shit like that. The catharsis when she is able to take him out, because she does manage. I do appreciate that she's not saved by anyone; she saves herself. But yeah, and the monologue he has about the first kill's the toughest. I don't care if you're Jack the Ripper or Wyatt fucking Earp. After that, you get used to it. And he talks about like now he does it just to see their expression change. Like, Jesus Christ, I can never remember, is that psychopath or sociopath, but just yeah. And he delivers it so well, and it's so well written. But yeah, he let's see. I think yeah, the he ends up finding it, and he's like, I must be getting old. I should have found it myself, And we see that she spots the fucking corkscrew, which it's so great because we saw it in use earlier, So it's like, it's not coming out of nowhere. It's not like everyone has a corkscrew, and the cork is still in the screw. So she spots it, and then we're like, okay, she's got to get her hands on. Clever, sitting she's moving slowly, so it doesn't look like she's dangerous. There's that is an actual tactic. If you're, I'm not fucking giving advice. I'm just saying, in real life, that is something that some have used. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, she gets it. She gets the cork out, and then she ultimately she sits in a way where he can clearly see that she has it, and that she's intending to use it as a weapon. And he starts laughing. He's like, oh, it's there's no way you're gonna actually effectively use that. You know what, I'm gonna give you a chance to hit me. And then she goes for his fucking foot, and it's so clever because like he wasn't thinking of that. And I will admit, the first time I watched it, I wasn't really thinking. I was thinking, oh fuck, she's not gonna be able to. But yeah, the foot, lot of it can get into a lot of pain like that. So yeah, very nicely done there. Let's see. I think that brings us to the and yeah, they go into the bathroom, and he throws her through glass, and she gets like cuts on her, and he talks about how bad she looks. And there's also the thing about in the when it cuts back to Clarence is talking about, oh, she's not conventionally attractive, huh? And it's just, yeah. I hope that we're not supposed to think that that's okay. It's just, yeah, because that is also like he's yes, I do think the movie is purposely, because it intercuts with the Gandolfini character saying, look at yourself, you're no longer conventionally attractive. What do you think Clarence is going to say about that? That it's such a dirty tactic, and it's so fucked up to insult a woman's appearance. Yeah, like don't fucking do that. Let's see. I think. Okay, I will grant. I've seen some women and non-binary people insult women's appearance, and it tends to be the ones where when leftists do it, it tends to be that they're criticizing that it's an awful person, like Ghislaine Maxwell. That I am not saying not to, but generally I don't think we men should be insulting women's appearance. But yeah, it is definitely saying Clarence is sometimes shallow, and then she's being hurt. And we do see when he comes back, he doesn't say that she looks bad. He's just thinking about getting her help. But yeah, he let's see. Yeah, she manages. She gets some soap on her hand and into his eyes, which also like that's gotta hurt. Like fucking Jesus Christ. And she manages to get of let's see, is it soap? She gets something on his face, and then she does the makeshift lighter, and it's the thing. I think isn't it the Zippo that he's been playing with, and yeah, just wonderfully done. And yeah, sets his fucking face on fire, and he runs out. Great stunt on that. Really appreciate them genuinely doing that, because that is like, yeah, you can do that safely under the right circumstances. Don't try it at home, kids. But yeah, he and she gets the shotgun and fucking takes him out, and yeah, like the catharsis, I will grant, has been heightened by how prolonged this scene of violence against her has been, and that is a theme that this is not the last time that Tarantino writes a scene where a woman is, badly hurt by a man and takes brutal revenge. Which I do also appreciate. That was something that when this and those were made, that was seen as more like today. There's, in a lot of progressive media, there's more of a focus on, her healing, recovering, and the fact that violence doesn't solve, Because in real life, it solves almost nothing. Violence tends to beget more violence. It might at first seem like, oh, it's solved, but later turns out not. Yes, I think that brings us to the yeah. So Clarence comes home, finds her, carries her away, and let's see. You have the what's the other thing? Shit. I feel like there's something I'm. No, yeah, I guess yeah. So yeah, and Dick being so gullible. Oh yeah, she got hurt during basketball, and Lee like laughs at that. That's such a ridiculous. Like no way was that it. Yeah, I think. I do also really appreciate the focus on that is also part of their relationship. Genuinely, Clarence tries. He doesn't always succeed, but he tries to protect her and take care of her. Um, you know, take out the people who might hurt her and such. And ultimately, he does get her hurt some of the time. This was in part his fault. He should have been more careful. He's in over his head, and it's hurting people he cares about. And that is also something I think that's part of why the movie resonates, because like we men feel like we got to protect, but we also got to be careful because what if it ends up hurting people we care about if we're not quite careful enough, kind of thing. Because we can understand why he wants to get out of this situation, and she too. Yeah, I think, doesn't that bring us all the way to so the yeah, so they leave for the hotel, and Floyd is told, and so he tells the other Italians, one of whom straight up does are you talking to me? I do see other people here, so maybe you're not talking to me. That movie really is amazing. I'm not saying flawless, but goddamn. Yes, I will at some point do Scorsese movies, but fuck, there's so many amazing directors I want to get to, I'm definitely thinking I'm gonna, before I start on another, I'm gonna finish off the Tarantino ones at least. Or at the very, very least, the fucking shit, Danny Boyle ones. I have less of those than Tarantino. Anyway, yes, I think that brings us all the way to the so yeah. Elliot talking to the and saying like, oh, they'll see it. They're listen. They're gonna take one look at my crotch, and they're gonna be like, "Are you watching The Wire?" And yeah, them talking about, no, just don't worry about it. He's like, I'm Elliot and I'm wearing a wire, and they can't stop fucking laughing. They're like, no, dude, just be natural. Just say something you would normally say. Just I fucking love them cutting back to them sitting there listening, and like, oh fuck, should we go in? Is this where we're going? Oh, I fucking love this guy. This personality, man. Get ready. Just especially fucking Tom Sizemore. He's got such amazing reaction shots to all this shit that's going down in the other. And that's again, like we've seen, tense like drug deals in movies before, and it's not even the first where someone is, indeed wearing a wire or something, but just like it just fucking works so well. Yeah, I already mentioned, Tarantino and Tony Scott are a big reason why. Anyway, I think, yeah. So and just also wonderfully done the way that it all converges. So yeah, the cops are waiting for confirmation of the deal, which like yeah, at one point he says, "Get the money." It's like, okay, the deal's definitely happening. We have enough, so we can go in. Meanwhile, the armed guards in the room, and you also have the Italians coming up, and they come in from through another door. And I can believe that a place that big there'd be multiple doors to the same room, and just yeah, this wonderful thing of like, because like the Italians want the um, the drugs back, and um, Clarence, and maybe also his, the people he's with, dead. The cops want to arrest Lee. The guards want to kill the cop. I'm one of them. And Boris, like we barely knew Yi. Like he does not have a lot of screen time, but it he conveys, Lee, listen, Lee, listen, Lee, the guy's armed. As something I never told you about me. I fucking hate cops. Just, Jesus Christ, this guy's really a cab. Um, I wouldn't go that far, personally. I am a cab, but I want them replaced by people who are not going to kill, you know, people going through a mental health crisis or the like, or brutalize and murder black people, and then get away with it, and get like genuinely angry when people point out they're fucking murdering black people. Yeah. Anyway, I think, including children, I think that does bring us to, it's amazing dialogues through so yeah, he comes in, listen, you don't have to frisk me. The only thing I got is this gun. You want me to hand you this gun? I'm willing to hand you this gun. Like, I trust you. And yeah, Boris is like, fucking gun now. This is not fucking okay, and Lee, at first seems like Lee might never find out, and ultimately he does just let him keep the gun. But yeah, for a while he's like, "Listen, I'm introducing people. Don't interrupt me." Like, dude, he's your fucking bodyguard. What do you think he's interrupting for? You think he's asking for a fucking potty break? He's about to tell you there's danger. Like, Jesus Christ. But that is like a lot of powerful people, sadly. Let's see. Right, and I guess this does also somewhat play into this trope of like, oh, Jewish people run Hollywood. I think South Park did a fantastic job, dealing with that entire bullshit thing. I guess I'll just briefly, in case you haven't watched that episode and maybe don't want to, yeah, early on, a lot of Christians deemed stuff like Hollywood to be like beneath them. So a bunch of Jewish people who were being barred from a lot of jobs that Christians had, they started to embrace that. There is a certain percentage of Jewish people in Hollywood, but it's not all of them, and they're not trying to like indoctrinate or anything. And Jewish people are not obsessed with money. Rich people are obsessed with money, and some Jewish people are rich, and some people who are extremely anti-Semitic can't stand seeing rich Jewish people, so they act like, oh, Jewish people must be like greedy. It's like, you realize that for like a really long time, Jewish people were just barely surviving because they weren't allowed into society. They weren't allowed the regular jobs. So they had to make their own jobs. And then immediately Christians were like, oh, they're probably using those jobs to cheat us. As like, they're using those jobs to make enough money to feed their families. You fucking monster. They just want to survive. Jesus fucking Christ. But yeah, I am not the right person to say whether or not the representation here is, if it's like badly done or something. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like it's kind of just Hollywood stereotypes more so than like Jewish. Like, it's not so much like that he's greedy. He's just, he's a Hollywood guy. It's everything is movies. He likes doing cocaine. He wants to make money and save money. Okay, I'll grant, make money and save money. That is sadly also an anti-Semitic trope. But it is also something said of Hollywood people who are not Jewish, which I'm acknowledging is not the same. But I don't know. I'm not the right person to say. I hope that it is not negative representation. I think think that brings us to the so yeah. You know, Alabama is sitting there during, all she can think about is you're so cool. So she writes it on the napkin and hands it to him, and later, says in narration, it's all I could think about. And the thing about, I would recover if you had died. I'd be sad for a while. I'm not sure I would have named our child Elvis. It's like, of course, he's gonna get Elvis, but just yeah. And he ends up, he's got the wound, the war wound, but he is still alive. It was very close. It could have killed him. But yeah, the all of them converging, and the way that, like, the chaos is so beautifully captured. Like, there's times where I can just barely tell, okay, that guy, oh right, that's he belongs to that group, and he's shooting at this guy, and then this guy's like dying, and it's not entirely unlike Saving Private Ryan, when the storming of Normandy. Just chaos. You can't completely tell everything, and you're not really supposed to. But it's enough that it doesn't feel like it doesn't keep us at arm's length either. Because it's not meant to. I do think that in all the, again, I've watched nearly everything Tarantino. I do think that when it comes to the violence that he writes, the most, beautifully realized, I do think it's in this movie. It's in From Dusk Till Dawn, and Natural Born Killers. I do love the way Tarantino handles it in the ones he directs, but overall, I do really think it's so fucking good in these. Yeah, I think. Where does that leave us? We got to the point of yeah. Fuck. I love that. For a while they're just all aiming their guns at each other, and Boris is saying, "Let me do it. I'm gonna fucking, I'm ready to blow. I'm a mushroom cloud lane motherfucker." And then fucking Elliot, I love, and he's also, in the elevator, and it's so beautifully done because, like, Clarence doesn't actually know. We thought he did. Elliot certainly thought he did. The cops thought he did. No, he's just making sure, and he believes him even though it's actually wrong. And like, Elliot is straight up saying, "I really wish somebody would come and get me." And, like, really, when you think about it, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess someone might say that even if they weren't wearing a wire. I can kind of see why Clarence ends up believing him. Um, yeah, just Elliot might be a better actor than yeah. Um, but yeah, I think that the fact, he's like, officer, and he knows his name is like, can we, Elliot, sit the fuck down, shut the fuck up. And then Lee is like, why do you know his name? Why does he know your name? You motherfucker. I treated you like a son. And, Fredo, I knew it was you. And it breaks my fucking heart. Just like, and yeah, he throws something in, and then they start shooting because, like, yeah, at that point, the tension, and fucking Elliot, just because he couldn't like keep, he couldn't he couldn't keep a cool head for just a little bit longer, like, maybe, because, like, at the end of the day, like, not everybody had to die, but that is what ends up, like, literally. Let's see, I think the only people who do walk away from it are Clarence in Alabama. I think even poor Dick. It's just, yeah. It's so sad to think. Dick bites it, and it haunts me to think Conchata Ferrell's character is going to have to find somebody else to play the bad guy.